it was such a small studio, but we were still working on Hollywood.
Yeah,
Like
right. Hello, Anima-saurus world, and welcome to another episode of interviews we're doing. Today, I'm very lucky to have on Skype with me, Brad. Now, Brad's been around for a long time. He's an animator who's worked on quite a few interesting and large-scale projects. So I'm really interested to hear about his story, where he's come from. So join me in welcoming him. Yay! Thanks, Brad. So just quick start off. A quick little overview about you and where you are now and what you're sort of doing for everyone who's listening.
right. I guess I got into animation 3D in general. I was excited about all of it. So I've learned a little bit about all of the different departments, and then I've gone and specialised into animation. Um, so started off my career, 2 years as a 3D artist, and been jumping into animation ever since.
Oh, cool. So starting off, what got you right back when you were starting? Because you said you had an education in animation and everything. What sort of got you interested? What was your inspiration for going? You know what? I want to learn more about animation. What really got you started?
Yeah, it was a bit of a gradual process, I think, because I started off just learning everything, and I thought it was all fun, and I was aware that I should specialize in something, but I just didn't know exactly which way to jump. But I think I realized that the thing that got me most excited about the whole process was when you start to see those characters coming to life. Because I used to always love drawing monsters and things, and then you'd create them in 3D, and you'd go through all that process of rigging them up and texturing them and making them ready to move. And then once I could start moving them, that was where they came alive, and it was super exciting. So I think that's where.
That did you get to touch on much like 3D stuff or art stuff in school, or was that in your school that you kind of went through, or was 3D something you discovered after school?
I played around with it in high school. Probably the thing that sort of started to set me off down the path of 3D was when I saw an advertisement for 3D Studio Max in a computer magazine, and I saw this little render of a monster, and I'd always been sketching lead pencil drawings of monsters, and then I saw this render, and I thought, wow, look at that! Like, this software can do that, so I can bring those monsters that I've been drawing. I can make those look more real and bring them to life. And so I started to look into 3D.
So it was a monster thing that got you started.
Yeah,
Cool.
monsters and dinosaurs. It's a bit of a cliche, but the Jurassic Park thing that got me right into it as well.
Yep. Yeah, Jurassic Park got a lot of people interested in making monsters.
Yeah,
It's kind of like our era of things. It's like the
yeah,
first big movie that really got stuff happening. Um,
yeah.
yeah. So that did you go into study straight after schools? Like your formal education, did you go straight into then studying anime? You did a course for everything. So did you go
Yeah,
straight in after school?
I did. Yeah, I think it was my high school art teacher that actually discovered this course. Um, it was the Enmore tape, which it was a 3D animation course, and it was a course that ran you through like the whole process, which I thought was great.
Yep. Yeah. Cool. So, and more TAFE. You had a good experience, going through that as well, kind of learning all the new stuff. Did they do much of a practical art aspect to the course as well, or is it all
Yeah,
3D? So,
it was very hands on. So we had the computer lab and we learned all the software. Um, we had a small class for 2D animation, just to teach us the principles, and there's so much to learn in animation. You can't expect to learn it all in one class of the whole course. So
yeah.
um, it was the entry to learning about, okay, there are the 12 principles, and it gave you a starting point, like a kick off.
What was the What was one of the best thing? Like, what's the memory you get out of it? The thing you always go back to. You go, I remember doing this in college. Is there anything that you did in that you go, I remember doing that, and that's something I'm pretty proud of.
Um, I don't know that I could narrow it down to one thing, but um, like most courses, I suppose you do an end of year short film, and I think they're always a lot of fun.
Yep.
They're a lot of work, but when you get to see that final product, that's something that you can hang on to for a lot of years, and you can look back on it and see how far you've come.
Yep.
And yeah, I was pretty happy with the results of those. You're looking back, the animation's terrible, but it's fun at the time.
Yeah, yeah. It's a big learning thing, and of course, when you step out, 2.5 years. You said was it a 2.5 year course or a 2 year course?
A 2 year course, yeah.
Yep, yep. And so for you, when you got out of that course, then did you actually land on your feet and head straight into a studio?
Yeah, I was pretty lucky. There was a game studio in town, Team Bondi.
Yep,
And
yep.
so I was studying with a couple of mates. Became mates with them in the course, and they did the 1 year because it was optional to do a second year. So they went straight into this studio, and I thought, that's how good's that? But I was just like, I want to just learn a little bit more before I go out into the industry. Like I'll take this opportunity. So stuck around and learned a little bit more, and I felt that was good for me. And yeah, then I went and joined them in that studio, and yeah,
Well,
that was good. It was pretty lucky for to go straight out of college into 2 years of permanent full-time work. I think that was
wow.
great.
Yeah, you were like the junior then. You studied with them at the same time, but you come out a year later and it's like, oh yeah, I'm hanging out with you. And I'm like, that
Yeah, that was
direction you
pretty
were to
funny.
go.
They'd been promoted in that 1 year. That they worked hard and they were great artists, and they got a little promotion. And then I come along, and I'm like, I'm the junior. I'm like, oh hey guys, show me the ropes.
So yeah. At least you had someone there you knew. That's a great way of getting a step in.
Yeah,
So yeah, I've heard a lot about that project and what it was like down there. So it was quite a big project for Sydney at that point to actually have.
it was huge. Yeah,
It was huge. It had a lot of people working on it, and
yeah,
I mean the end product was a brilliant product as well. LA Noir was quite a great game for the time it came out.
yeah. I've
So
heard a lot of people that you'll meet people and you'll tell them the game, and they're like, oh, I love that game. So it worked out
yeah.
pretty well.
Yeah, you always got that little badge of pride when someone says, "Oh yeah, I watched that or I played that and I loved it." It's always
Yeah,
good. Um,
yeah.
so that gets you out of that. So did you were you animating on that one or was that
No, so yeah, I actually jumped into that as a 3D artist. So I was creating the world environments, and that was a detective game. So I was one of the first guys to jump in and start making the clues, the little props that you could pick
oh
up. Yeah,
nice. Yep,
yeah,
yep.
that was pretty fun.
Cool. So that hasn't got you into animation yet, but were during that time were you actually hanging out with the animators and kind of scoping out what they do, or were you actually very
Yeah.
much in your little corner going, all right, I've got to be doing my 3D assets and learning everything, or
No, so I mean, I was diving into learning as much as I could about the role that I was in. I was very lucky to have a guy next to me that was very knowledgeable, and he would help me a lot and show me the ropes and teach me lots of cool little tricks. Yeah, and then to the other side, I had an animator. So it was a little unusual, I suppose, looking back, to have um, such a mixed seating arrangement. Usually, you have the departments all like very, um, you know,
segregated?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I was picking the animator's brain as well, and talking a lot, because it was a video game, talking a lot to the programmers, especially with the interactive props. I had to work very closely with the programmers and the animators, because we had to set up little locators and things for where the item would snap to the hand, and yeah, it was pretty fun, but pretty technical. It was
Yep.
interesting.
Yeah, I mean that's the sort of thing. Like I said, you came from a film. You're in college, you were doing film, so actually getting into a game, there's a whole other realm of things you got to think about within games worlds. Like you said,
Yeah,
where does a character actually need to grab hold of a prop? So
Yeah.
getting exposed to that knowledge must have been pretty exciting. Going, oh wow, this is all
Yeah.
learning new stuff.
It was
So
great. Yeah. I used to enjoy doing little game mods. You play your game and then you find out how to change some of the assets or create your own asset and put it into an existing game. You can't. I
yep.
don't know if you can do it so much now. It used to be a bit easier. You could just get in and change the files. But yeah, I know there are programs for it now. But yeah, so it was fun to start to see that for real,
Yeah.
and learning things like you have to be very strict with your naming conventions, and clean final assets to make sure it doesn't break the game because that'll
Oh,
get you.
yeah. So yeah, you're learning about pipeline structure at this point in time. Going, oh, you know what? All that stuff, it's actually really valuable.
Yep,
Yep.
definitely.
So you get out of that. I know at that point in time in Sydney, things were starting to kind of wind down. There wasn't much around. Did you run on straight onto something else then? Were you able to find something else?
Actually, yeah. So it was around that time that I became aware of Animation Mentor.
Oh, yep.
Um, there's a couple of my mates there in animation had signed up to it, and I was like, "Oh, what's that? That looks cool. Tell me about that." And then I was like, "Okay, yeah, I really want to do that," because I thought, I've decided I'm going to jump over into animation. But I knew that I knew enough to know that I didn't know anything in animation. I was like, if I'm going to, get a job in animation, I need to know more of a structured approach to it because I was just stumbling through it. I would start moving things around and then see how it looked, and it was only then that I could start to assess whether it looked okay once I had something there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wanted more of a structured approach to it, and Animation Mentor was pretty good for that.
Yep.
So yeah, I started studying that, and shortly into that course, I put a reel together and applied for a local Sydney cartoon company. They were making a little TV cartoon, and yeah, that was great. I jumped over into my first animation gig.
Wow, cool. Okay. And you hadn't even finished your animation mentor course yet.
No, so that was pretty tricky trying to do that. And a lot of people do it. Working in animation while studying an animation mentor in your own time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a busy time.
Yeah, yeah, you're doing 14, 16 hour days because you're working as well as studying. It's pretty full on, but it gets it shows your drive to actually know what you're on about. So that was your first animation gig after that. How long did that last?
That was probably somewhere between, I don't know, 6 to 8 months, I think.
Oh, so
Um,
it's not really a short gig. That's a decent sized gig.
yeah, I'm not sure if I'm remembering correctly. It could have been closer to 6 months.
Yep.
But yeah, it was a decent gig. I
Yep.
learned a lot there, of course. It was pretty interesting going straight into this fast-paced TV production,
Yep.
and all of a sudden going, wow, there's so many controls on these characters. How do you do this?
Yeah, yeah, because coming out of game props, there's usually not a lot of controls on props that you got to work with. But when you get, yeah, especially when you look at facial controls and things like that, it's just like you can get overwhelmed with it. So, okay, cool.
Definitely.
So that gets you into the gigs. Did stuff flow? One of the things I have from inside the Australian animation is that I never really got continuous work as an animator. How did you go then
Mm.
after that? Did you keep things rolling?
Yeah, it was interesting. That straight after that, I was actually out of work for about 4 months,
Oh
and
yeah.
then same again the following year. I picked up another gig, and then I was out of work again for 4 months. And I think it was just a little bit of unfortunate timing,
Yep.
and that's something you have to obviously be prepared for in this industry.
Yeah.
Um, Luckily, I haven't had it like that since.
Since.
I've been pretty lucky since then. Those first 2 years, it was early in my career, so I started to wonder, oh, geez, is it going to always be like this? And
Yeah.
um, it kind of is, I guess, but I've been very lucky now to have hopped between jobs
Yep.
with much of a gap between them.
Yeah, I found that with the start of my career, you don't know that many people either, so you don't know who
Yeah.
to talk to, and you haven't built up a reputation. So actually, just sticking around long enough It kind
Yeah,
of
it's just
gives you a bit of a hand to know, who can you talk to, find out what projects are around. So definitely helps out a lot. But I just know from your story, then you didn't always stay in Sydney either.
that's right. Yeah, it's a very nomadic industry as well. If you're chasing the next big project, or
Yeah,
some just chasing any project, you have
just
to.
chasing work. It's just like, oh,
Yeah.
you need work somewhere. Yeah. So did you from Sydney? Did you cobbled together a few years in Sydney then, from different projects and starting off, and that's kind of launched your career off into somewhere else. Where did you head to after Sydney?
So yeah, I was in Sydney for a long time.
Yep.
I did a short year well, 1 year exactly in Melbourne.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yep.
And yeah, then I came back to Sydney for quite a few years, and just the last couple of years I've been over to New Zealand and then to Adelaide, and
Yep.
back in Sydney. So yeah,
Oh,
you do bounce around a little bit. I don't think I've moved around quite as much as some of the other animators that I've seen out there.
oh really?
You get people that, yeah, I see some of my mates. They go all around the world. They Canada and London, and
Yep.
people move around quite a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Well, how did you get over to New Zealand? Was that just an apply off the back of you just applied off the back of an ad somewhere, or was there another way
Uh,
you got into New
no,
Zealand?
yeah, that was basically just an online application.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, surprisingly, that sometimes works. Yeah,
Oh,
early in my
cool.
career, it seemed like that was a little futile because I'd send out my reel, and to be honest, looking back, I think my reel just probably wasn't where it needed to be. Um, but yeah, if you got the strong reel, companies often prefer that you do a sign like what do you call it? Apply. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yep.
Apply to the company through the official channel, especially if it's a bigger studio.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
there are definitely opportunities when you'll get contacted by someone and they'll be looking for work and they'll let you know, or you might be able to, tell your mate that you're looking for a job in that, and they'll pass the word on. Um, yeah,
Yep.
but sometimes, you just got to go through the online application.
Yep. Yeah. The official channel. I mean, that's why a lot of companies set up their official channel so that they know they can funnel people through it. Like
Yeah,
once you've actually got your name on their books, it's quite easy to do. Just update. You go, oh, here's a new reel. I've worked on this shot
yeah,
now and this shot. So, yeah, cool. So that's yeah. So you've landed back in Sydney again. A full big circle all the way back in
yeah.
Sydney. So when you're traveling, because you've gone in and out of a few things, do you find that you're traveling with the same group of animators to most of these places you travel to?
Yeah, it can be at times, which is pretty cool.
Yep.
You get to know some cool people in this industry, and I think it's awesome to be able to move around with them. It's sometimes you won't always move with the same group to the next place. You might move to a new studio that you've never worked at before, and you arrive there, and you start seeing all these people that you know. It's pretty fun. You're like,
Yeah.
oh hey, how have you been? I haven't seen you for a few years. Yeah, and other times, a lot of people. There's a bit of like a migration, I suppose, where people go. Everyone sort of all goes to where the projects are. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool as well.
Yeah, everyone's contract sort of ends at the same time, but another studio's ramping up at the same time. So it's just like, oh yeah, we got a group of, experienced animators just kind of traveling across somewhere else. Yeah, cool.
That's kind of cool because you'll work at a place and then that'll end, and then everyone sort of sometimes people all go off into different directions. So now all of a
Yep.
sudden you got mates in a studio in Canada, a mate in London, and people all around the world, which is pretty interesting as well.
Yeah, you find out the stories about what they're like of, doing what their projects like. All of a sudden, there's these, you get a message going somewhere. Oh, the film I've worked on's just come out. You go, oh, you worked on that. I wanted to work on
Yeah,
that one. little bit of film envy going. Oh man.
yeah,
It does sometimes happen the other way. You're going, oh man, I'm glad I didn't work on that.
yeah. Yeah, there are
Um,
some scary projects out there.
Um, I know we talked about it before. Something which a lot of people do is how much you actually learn when you do get into a studio. Because when like when you come out of when you come out of a learning institution, you go, you know what, I think I know everything now. You know, I'm in a good position to kind of get in and start. But even now, you know, you've worked your career for a long time now. But do you still find that when you jump into a new studio or something, that you're still having to learn lots and heaps,
Yeah,
just differently?
always. Yeah, and I think that's the exciting part about it. You're never going to stop learning in this industry.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, especially moving around. You go to a new studio and you work with new people. There's so many talented artists out there that you can always learn something from them. And yeah, I love it. Like every new studio I go to, I'm learning something new.
Ah, cool. Yeah, I agree. It's kind of something that you kind of do keep learning, even if it's like learning stuff by yourself. Like we were talking about before, learning, from a once you was talking to Luke the other day, and once you get into an industry, he kind of likes gives you upside down tea. You jump in, you break the ice, and you learn in. Like you said, you got in via modeling, but once you were in there for 2 years, you got to learn about animation, and you were able to pivot off of what you'd learnt once you got in. So starting out, how do you actually then keep yourself motivated to want to keep going to a next project?
Wow, yeah. I'm not sure. I'm always just striving to improve, I suppose.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, kind of like what Luke says. Once I decided I was going to do animation, I was like, right, I'm laser focused on animation.
Yep.
Um, and I thought, oh, I'd really like to learn a little bit about rigging or a little bit about scripting, but I'll do that once my animation's better. And you never get to a point when you go, my animation is good enough.
Yeah.
Um, you never get to that point where, I mean, well, I haven't yet. I'm not sure if anyone out there
Yes.
has.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, there's always room for improvement in animation. So that was funny. I was always thinking, I'll wait till I'm at a certain level where I feel more comfortable at animation, and then I'll start to branch out to these other skill areas. And it just kind of never got to that point. So
Yeah.
then, but yeah, eventually I just thought, okay, well, I'll keep chipping away at learning animation, and then I'll just sort of start to branch out to learn little bits and pieces about the surrounding departments, which I think is really important.
Yep. Yeah. Knowing what knock-on effect you have as an animator, what your knock-on effect is to anyone else down the line, or what you can ask for. Because, like you said, animation and rigging work really closely together. But actually knowing what happens when you ask for something, like as an animator, you're sitting there going, "Oh, this rig just rotates from the wrong location. Can't you just change the pivot point?"
Yeah,
It's just like having, knowing what that actually means, or saying, can you just
yeah,
rig up this new asset which we've got?
yeah.
Understanding what
Just
that.
can you just write this new script for me like today?
Yep.
Um, yeah, I think it's important to be able to speak the language of the departments that you are cooperating with.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, like you say, to understand what's involved in those processes, and to have just a basic knowledge of what goes on, because it can help you either requesting something or knowing that the work you're passing on is going to be quality work for them to work on.
All right, Brad. I'd like to say thank you very much for joining me and having a bit of a chat through your experiences and sharing some of the wealth of your knowledge with everyone who's listening. All right. So if anyone actually wants to contact Brad about anything animation related, I'll leave a link to his LinkedIn down in the description. And so just send him a message, and I'm sure he'd love to hear from you. But until the next time we all get to talk, we'll all say bye bye.